Hey church, this is Ryan, pastor of Discipleship and Mission. I wanted to take some time to get you ready for our 5th replication of D groups here at Ridgedale. It is the most important thing we do here because it impacts every aspect of our church. Discipleship groups help provide an essential environment for every believer to have intimate friendships, accountability, and most importantly, a life rooted deeply in God's Word. As we work to live out our God-given calling, as we follow Jesus and make disciples every day, discipleship groups are an integral part of the process. Discipleship groups are gender-specific, closed groups of 3 to 5 believers who meet together weekly for the purpose of accelerated spiritual transformation. It is not evangelistic in its form or function, but in its fruit. It makes disciples who will then go on to make more disciples. Discipleship groups form through pre-existing, meaningful relationships with other believers in environments like community groups or volunteering in our many ministries. Because of this, discipleship groups are not simply joined, but started. Now I want you to hear a story of life change because of discipleship here at Ridgedale.
Hi, my name is Hannah Plumley, and I'm a sophomore at UTC this fall. I've been at Ridgedale for roughly 10 years now, and the majority of that time I was in student ministry. I came through Ridgedale Student Ministry from the 6th through 12th grade. During that time, I was poured into over and over again. And while a lot of that was in the typical formation of Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings, I saw most fruit come from my time in small groups and one-on-one settings. It was because of that intentional time that took place in D group settings that I know the Lord the way I do today. One specific season where I really saw the fruit of D groups was during my junior and senior year of high school. I was specifically being poured into so heavily by the Frakes. They began to welcome me so clearly into their lives and into student ministry in ways that I just cannot express. I got to see the relationships that I formed in D groups no longer bound themselves by the walls of the church, but I got to see that come into my life, both in and outside of the church. Prior to my time and involvement with D groups, I really spent a lot of time just disconnected from the church. I came on Sundays and I came on Wednesdays, but I wasn't allowing myself to form deep relationships with the people around me. And so it was really D groups that kind of forced me outside of my comfort zone and made me get connected with the people who were right around me for so long. For the Frakes, for example, I was around them for 2 years before I really got to know them. And it was D groups and D group-like settings that really pushed me into that and into that community in such a way that it just completely immersed my heart and my walk with the Lord. Once I graduated out of that ministry, I knew I wanted to serve in the way I had been served. Last year, I began a D group of my own. I led 3 high school girls through the study of Galatians, as well as a book on how to study the Bible. We took a semester just to sit in communion with one another and to study the Lord's Word, and it was transformative to say the least. Not only did the Lord use my efforts to fill the cups of others, but He also filled my cup in the process. I truly saw such fruit and goodness come from my time both in D groups and leading them. I think one of the coolest parts about D groups that I just didn't expect to see was how this ability to form relationships carried over into every sphere of my life. I saw that carry over into my relationships with even just my peers. I saw the way I interacted with them at school completely change. I wanted to be more intentional with them and the way I loved them and poured into them even as a peer. And then in my family, I saw the way that I viewed my parents and respected them completely change. I understood what it was to have self-discipline and how that impacted my life at home and little things, and just holding myself accountable and being more intentional and loving towards the people who are in my life outside of Ridgedale. I would say if you're hesitant about joining a D group, just to allow the Lord to work in that uncomfortable feeling. We know that the Lord is able to do abundantly more than we could ever think, and that's what I saw Him do with my involvement with D groups. I saw Him take my afraid nature and turn that into confidence in not only His Word, but also in the community around me.
So what's next? Our D group leaders are already working to form their groups for the coming year. Our groups most often replicate from personal invitations, but you can also go to our website under events, and there you can fill out a form indicating your desire to be in a D group. I cannot implore you enough to be in a D group this fall. If you have any more questions at all, feel free to reach out to me in person or email me, ryanim@ridgedelebaptist.org.